Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Uncorked with Funny Wine Girl. This is Funny Wine Girl, aka Janine Luby. All right, and I know you guys who do listen on a regular basis, you're sick of hearing me say two things. One, I'm so excited for the person I get to talk to today, but it's true. I can't help myself. And two, I always say to you every week, I always like to share how I got connected to my guest, if I knew them, if someone else made the connection, because I think it is so important that we are open and to meeting people, that we're curious, that we're putting ourselves out there, whether it's in a networking position, a new hobby, whatever it is. Someone gives you their business card, hold on to it. You don't know in the future how you might be able to help them. They could help you. I just think it's so important that we create community and connect with one another. So my guest today, again, I am super excited. She is Keir Bradford-Grey. She is the candidate, one of the Democrats for Pennsylvania State Attorney General. And I got connected, this absolute pleasure, which I wouldn't have even known how to reach out. I guess you just have to try, because the best thing is you're always going to get a no if you don't ask, right? So Jennifer Graham Partika was a guest just a couple weeks ago talking about nurse advocacy and how nurse advocacy is patient advocacy. She is really active locally here in Northeastern Pennsylvania for the Democratic Party. One day we were having coffee and she said, "Would you like to talk to Keir on your podcast?" I said, "Oh my God, yeah." And she texted Keir. I think Keir wrote back with a heck yeah. And here we are today. And I could not be happier. So I want to say welcome, Keir. Thank you so much for joining me.
Heck yeah, thank you. That's exactly what I said.
Yeah, she showed me the phone and I said, "Heck yeah, well, all right then." That's absolutely, some people, it's funny. Some people, well, obviously you're running for office, so you're used to talking, you're comfortable, but it's always amazed me as someone, I have my own business, people who like don't want to be interviewed, or they don't want to talk to a reporter or whatever. And I'm thinking, you're passing up an opportunity to have your voice heard. So you should not dismiss any of those opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, if you're saying you want to do this because you have something to add it. That's all. That's all you can do. You have an amazing platform. That before, when I was growing up, platforms were only on like ABC and NBC. Now we have all these wonderful opportunities to get our vantage points out.
Absolutely. You're right. There's actually, and we could talk separately. That's a whole different thing. There's so much noise out there, honestly, right? There's so many things
Yeah,
out there.
that was
Sometimes you're like, okay, I need to put on headphones and curl up into a ball in the corner. At least that's how I feel sometimes, but it's too
me
much.
too.
But
Yes.
before I want to ask you about your background, but I should have said at the intro, just so people understand what you're running for. But Governor Shapiro appointed you chief defender for Montgomery, County. And then you were hired to lead the state's largest public defenders association in Philadelphia, where you had a staff of 500 people. You managed a $50 million budget. So that's just a little bit about your professional background. But could you share, just whatever you want to share, just a little bit about you, your background?
Yeah. So thank you for asking about me. Not too many people ask me about me. I just say I'm a young, well, I used to be young. My kids tell me I'm not. But I'm just a woman who has really always dreamed of being able to make things right for people. When I was younger, I just saw good people struggle just to get opportunity that I thought they should have. And I always sat back and said, why doesn't anyone help the people I love? Why are people treating them like they don't matter? And I swear, for whatever reason, it just stuck in me in my veins when I watched my mom and my dad just struggle to get things that they had hoped they would get and get disappointed when it didn't come their way. And I'm talking about basic stuff like healthcare access and to be treated fairly on a job. You know, those are things that people take for granted that other people struggle to get. And it was felt in my household when we didn't get it. And I saw my two like heroes become deflated at times when they couldn't. And I said to myself, I'm going to protect them like no other. Whenever I get a chance, I'm going to do everything I can because I'm going to help my mom and dad be the people and get the value that I know they deserve. Unfortunately, my dad didn't outlive me long enough so that I could be able to help him. But my mom is still here. And I said, anything I do with my life, it's going to be in honor of her. It's going to be to protect her. And it's going to be to advance her vantage point in life that she had in struggling just to provide opportunity for me. And so where I come, that vein of protection, that vein of fairness has just been ingrained in me since I was a little girl, watching my parents struggle with it. And then when I got a chance to go to college, I was the first to go to college in my family. I always said I didn't want to stop at college, right? I wanted to get a law degree to protect families like mine because I saw a woman protect my mom when her job discriminated against her. And when she was, and I should back up, my mom was a parole officer, and it was a good union job that got her from the administrative assistant all the way to the parole officer. And when her employer did something underhanded and fired her and her African American coworkers, it was the first time I ever saw a lawyer in my life that I could actually touch come into my home, treat my mom and her coworkers with respect and dignity, go into court and fight for them. And racial discrimination was exposed. My mom got her job back. And at that point, life seemed better again. And I said, if that one lawyer can do that for me, I would do that for a lot of people. And so I got my law degree just wanting to use the law as a catalyst of protection for people at any vantage point that they needed help. So that's just me in a nutshell. So much more to me, but I'm a mother of three, and I am so proud of that. I have really good kids, even though they drive me nuts. They're good people. They're good humans, and so I appreciate that. I'm a wife of, I call him my fourth kid, but he's my husband. I love him dearly. And I'm a daughter of a 77-year-old mother that I love and admire so much. And I'm a sister to a brother and another sister. And I'm a sister to all other women. So that's who I am. I'm everyone. I'm everyone else. I'm the same person as everyone else.
And now, you're in, you were in Philadelphia, or you are in Philadelphia. Were you from Philadelphia? Is that where you grew up?
No, I grew up in Boston. Boston,
Okay.
Massachusetts. I'm not a Patriots fan, no. But I grew up in Boston, and I left Boston when I was 18 because I was able to get a sports scholarship to go to college. That's the way I got to college. My ticket was sports. I worked hard. I put it all out there, and I actually got to college. And when I went to college in Georgia, I said to myself, wow, this is a different environment. So I just wanted to explore. And after Georgia, I went to college. I went to law school in Ohio. And after law school, this is how I chose Philadelphia. I said, I want to start my law practice where the Constitution was birthed. And that was it. I went to Philly because I was just so enamored with justice and Constitution and promise. I landed here. And it sounds corny, but literally, that's how it happened.
No, I tell you what though, that makes, I would think it should make people respect that. Like, that's how much you respect the law, and that you want to be what you want to be part of and represent. I think that's awesome. And Philadelphia, I mean, that's a tough city. That's right. That's a strong city, right?
I was like, wait, Constitution, where is it? Come on. Yes. Yes. It was a reality check about what law and society is, but it's been great. I mean, look, I've had a wonderful time raising my family here, and Philadelphia's been good to me. It's got its issues, it's got its challenges, but a lot of cities and municipalities do.
Yeah. Yeah, I live in Scranton here, and I'm proud. I grew up here. We have a lot of great stuff. We have problems. Every city does. I say, when people criticize, I say, every city is home to somebody, right?
That's
That's their home, where their family is, and it means something to them. And yes, we all have problems that we have to work through. And that'll be a good segue, because I'll ask you. So you were a public defender, and so I'll admit, and I always freely say my ignorance. I don't know, when someone says state attorney general, I'm like, I don't really know what that job is. And I wouldn't have, if it wasn't for Jennifer, I wouldn't have known who was running. And in fact, I had to Google last night that you even have there are other candidates running. But I guess it's referred to, the position as top cop, like you're in charge of law enforcement, but you want to do it for the people. You want to be in there. So tell me a
yeah.
little bit about your understanding. Like, what does a state attorney general do? First of all, what are the responsibilities?
I'm so glad you asked that because look, don't feel bad. I was a lawyer in the system for decades and I didn't know what the attorney general did either. I'm like, who are these folks and why are they here in court on this case? But the more I started studying this role, when certain attorneys general started emerging, like Letitia James and Keith Ellison and Josh Shapiro, the stuff that he was doing with the role, It exposed my awareness of the breadth and enormity of opportunity of that role to really help and protect people. So, as we call it the top cop here in Pennsylvania, in other places it's called the people's lawyer, and it's the people's law firm. And why it's called that is because, as the attorney general, it has general jurisdiction to protect people in so many different ways. One, it upholds the law of the state. So, all the laws that are on the state books, which there are thousands, it upholds those laws. So the law that gives us the right to clean air and clean water, the Attorney General upholds that law. So anyone who pollutes that air, anyone who pollutes that water, the Attorney General is the one that stands up. The law that says we have a right to be educated equally and constitutionally, and when we aren't, the Attorney General upholds that law. The law that says you can't be discriminated against in housing, and if people are, the Attorney General upholds that law. The law that says that we should be provided access to health care, and I mean, there are laws that say access to care. You can't discriminate against people in terms of if you're getting governmental funds, you cannot discriminate into how you delve those out. The Attorney General upholds that law. And the criminal laws that are on our books that say, hey, you can't violate anyone and harm them criminally, the Attorney General upholds that law. Now, in a different way than your district attorney does. So a district attorney is kind of a reactive person that really prosecutes street crimes that are where police arrest someone on the street for harming an individual, for harming a person. The district attorney really is the one that fights against that person. The attorney general fights against institutions on behalf of people. So the business of crime, the attorney general goes after. You know, we're talking about gun violence in areas. Well, there's a lot of people that play a role in gun violence. There are people that are enablers, businesses that turn a blind eye on how they sell their guns, and they don't record the transactions, and they don't do background checks, and they don't do any of the things that would keep us safe. They supply these access weapons to people who should not have them. The attorney general is a major player and can be very proactive in that. Fentanyl distribution, large fentanyl distribution that comes in through our ports, and making sure that we're really being proactive and working with agencies to see where it's coming from. The attorney general can do that. But the everyday street crimes, that is left for the 67 district attorneys in each county that are elected by the people. The attorney general is a partner in that. But for the most part, the role protects our consumers. When you buy something, if you're getting scammed, or if those practices of business practices are fraudulent, the attorney general stands up for you. And many people don't know that. Contractors right now are scamming people left and right. And people are left holding the bag or the roof that still has the hole in it, while people are getting away with scamming them all day. The attorney general deals with that. And so it's very general, it's ubiquitous, but I should say this most importantly, why have stepped up in advance and really put all of my fears of putting myself out there behind me is because the attorney general is going to play a huge role in making sure people and women have access to quality health care and abortion care should they choose to, because it is legal under the state of Pennsylvania to access an abortion. And for anyone who denies a woman because of their ideology, the attorney general will step up. And I want to make sure that women are going to get their fair share of conversation brought to a platform when there's still unequal pay equity, when they are still being sexually harassed in male-dominated fields, and when they are still struggling to make their own choices with their own bodies. This is unconscionable, and we need a woman that brings the perspective of a woman to that role.
Can I get an amen? Absolutely. You just said a lot, and I have to say, this isn't so much a question as an observation. I shake my head when I see some days where I feel like women, the direction is going in this country. It's sad. It breaks my heart. Instead of going forward, I think we're going backwards in many ways. So I want to personally thank you for being someone who's going to fight for our rights, because it makes me sad. I don't know where we're headed, and it's getting a little scary, quite frankly. Yeah.
Oh my God, I just got goosebumps on my jacket because what you just said is real. I think women are feeling that, right? We're feeling like, wait a minute, are you serious? Are we in the Handmaid's Tale? Like what is happening here? I can't even believe we're talking about this. Like these people won? These crazy people who think that I should be asking their permission about what could be a life and death situation? People that women had are doing this to women, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Handmaid's Tale. You're right. You're absolutely right. It's like, it's sad when you watch it and you're like, oh, wait a minute. Like, uh-oh, it could be
Right.
around the corner if we don't get out and vote for the people who will protect us, Uh
Yes.
with that said, share, if you don't mind, a little bit about your experience so far. I mean, the primaries are in April. How's it been for you running as a woman and as a woman of color? And I'm sure we're talking race, we're talking gender. You have probably faced a lot in not only in your life, but in this so far in this
Yeah.
in the campaigning. Could you mind sharing just a little bit about how your experience has been?
Yes. So I'll start with the positive. I've been meeting some wonderful women, especially like Jen Partika. She is such a gem. And she keeps me going along with other women that I have met that have, oh my gosh, I don't know why, just emotion just came over me. That I have met across the campaign trail that have been so energizing, so refreshing, and so committed to people. So I will start with that because that has been the best part of this. I have had moments where I've gone into rooms and I've been ignored. I haven't, I would extend my hand to shake it and they wouldn't extend theirs back. And I realized it's so sad that where we are, you mean to tell me that because of whatever you don't like about me, that you don't even know me, but whatever external thing that's going on, that you can't treat me as a human being, that still exists in 2024. And my children are growing up in a world that still has this. And it's very hard to accept, but it's something that I fight to overcome every day because what I want them to know is that you're not going to win. You're not going to win with hatred and bigotry. You're not going to win with gender suppression. And I'm going to keep coming because I know who I am and I know my opportunity and I know my passion. So you're not going to stop me with your negativity. And I have to keep that in mind. Now, there's been a lot of women that I've been shocked about that have felt like, well, a Black woman can't win statewide. And I said, well, with your help, yes, we can. What do you mean we can't? There's been so much that people have said we can't do. And then I think about Hillary Clinton and I'm like, wait a minute, but these are the same women that didn't like her either. And it's like,
Yes.
what is happening with us? Why are we self-sabotaging our own,
Mm.
our own interest? And I hope that we've learned our lesson from 2016 because there were a lot of women that went in that booth and voted for Trump. And now we see where that got us. And so now it's time for us to stand for us and stop voting against our own interests. And whatever it is, whatever that thing is that makes you think, look at a woman who's running for something that's never been achieved before and make you think, well, who do you think you are? Let's ask ourselves, who do you think we're not? We are the
Yeah.
ones that hold the households down. There's a lot of people that talk about, oh, a woman with power. Well, nobody, men may have a hard time with a woman with power, but no one has a hard time with a woman who wants responsibility because they'll give that to us all day. And we take it.
Yes. That's
so,
saying something for sure. Yeah.
so
I love
that's
that you
just,
said
yeah.
that. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm finished. But that's just how this has been. And it's been hard. I will say this has been hard. As a woman and a woman of color, especially, and it's been statistically noted that raising funds is harder for us. And I don't understand why, but it is a reality. And so we've been going far and wide, raising small dollars by people. It takes a lot more time, but it does still work. 1,000 people giving $10,000 is $10,000. Yeah, I can't just call up a company and say, hey, write me a $10,000 check. So we've got to do much more work, but it does make me touch more people. It makes more people be a part of this.
Yeah, I've been following your Instagram and I've seen you're out there all over the state shaking hands and meeting people.
Everywhere.
Yeah. And you said a minute ago you got chills and I it's probably my perimenopause because I'm 52, but I'm getting teary listening to you talk because I truly it hurts my heart what you're saying. It just does. And it's just an emotional thing. It hurts my heart. So I'm sorry that you're experiencing that, but I am happy for the positives that you're experiencing. And hopefully
Yes.
those will continue. Yeah.
Well, it's continuing right now because this is a great conversation, and I just thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. So let me ask you, like, this isn't meant to be a tough question, but just tough because I want to see you succeed. What are you telling to those people who, I mean, like I said, people like me, we're ignorant. We don't know what the hell attorney general is. And half the time, if I went in the booth, I'd just be like, all right, Democrat, I'm Democrat, I'll vote for Democrat. And I usually try to say, oh, a woman, I'll choose a woman because I like to promote and support women. What do you tell for the folks that are like the tough ones to change their mind? Like, listen, here's what I'm going to bring to the role. Here's what I'm going to do. What do you tell those folks?
Yeah. So I'm glad you said that because people think, oh, public defender, you can't possibly do that job. And I want to start with a public defender is a lawyer. I got the same law degree as anyone else who chose to do their work in other places, especially in the prosecutor world. We're both in the same criminal law area, jurisdictional area. We both understand the law. We both understand how to apply the law. I just chose a road, I don't know why, that was much harder to advance the law and justice than it was on the other side. I chose a road that was, more devalued and didn't even pay as much, So my road in terms of applying justice made it much harder, but it made me a better lawyer, a better scholar of the law, because I've had to know it and be more well traversed in the law. So to start with the premise that I am an able lawyer that has really had to learn how to be creative with the law, courageous with the law on behalf of people that were very devalued and often disposable. If I can do that for them, I can do that for anyone. And I can use the law in a genuine way, especially if I have access to resources. Now, as a prosecutor, you have people that are investigating cases professionally for you. You have people that give you access to computer technology. We don't have any of that as a public defender. And yet I was still very successful in going against the United States of America, going against the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, going against the Department of Justice. I mean, can you imagine if someone had to do that? Most people who are prosecutors have the podium already ready for them, and all they have to do is show up. Well, we had to build it. And so I'd want someone who's had to learn all of the nuances of the law in very interesting ways to represent me, because not only does she understand how to utilize the law for everyone, but she understands what it takes to win. And so that's one of the premises. The second thing is, as a person that has worked inside of the system as a public defender, as a practitioner in state and federal practices, and then I managed systems. Josh Shapiro appointed me as a chief defender in Montgomery County. He trusted my leadership, and together we used my vantage point and the vantage point of law enforcement and advanced our systems, because it takes the panoramic view that I brought. And it wasn't happening. The systems that were advanced didn't happen before I came along and was an effective collaborator. I also managed the fourth largest public defender office in the nation. I have managed more people than the four of my opponents combined. And I have moved and advanced systems from the public defender vantage point, which wasn't the most valued. We didn't always have the shining lights and the headlines, but I was able to be effective. That shows that a leader with passion, commitment, and I didn't come with my chest poked out. I was a strategist. I was strategically able to make sure that I was working with people who disagreed with me, but I made a shared vision, and I created synergy so that we can advance systems and people along. And I had the impact that I've had on systems and communities is long lasting. And I think that's the sign of a true leader. So I start with my leadership, I start with my legal prowess, but then I'd say this: Josh Shapiro showed us that role is not for a prosecutor. And if we only look at this role as a prosecutor role, we're going to underutilize it for some very important opportunities for people. When Josh went after student loan companies for predatory lending, he showed them, I'm here for you, people who are being taken advantage of. When Josh went after employers who were stealing tips from employees, he showed people, I am here for working class people. This role is one for a person that understands the plight of the working class people in more vulnerable communities: seniors, people with disabilities, people with addiction issues, people with mental health issues. That is, the role is for a person that is a courageous lawyer, that is a people's lawyer, that has the awareness and the perspective to offer more protections to more people that they can see. And so I use that to make sure that people know I am well poised and well able, and I've had the most experience in leading large organizations. And I've been doing it with humility and courage all along, and it's got me where I am now.
That's awesome. I guess I would just say too, how do you address then, like, so that you've got me sold, but I was sold before I even started talking to you. But the folks who don't understand what it's like to be in those vulnerable populations, because it's real hard for a lot of us to stand in someone else's shoes. So they might think to themselves, well, I don't care about those populations. And I'm sorry
Oh,
to say, there are people out
yeah,
there, I'm going to say this, that are just
yeah.
self-serving, or maybe they're for big business, or they're for what. How do you like win them over?
So seniors, who doesn't care about our seniors, right? They're vulnerable. They're a vulnerable population. And my 77-year-old mother is constantly getting scammed. She's constantly getting predatory practices put upon her by financial institutions that want to put her in a 30-year mortgage because they know she has equity in her home. She's got a fixed income, so she may need a little bit of cash. And they're putting her in 30-year mortgages that are putting liens on her homes. Vulnerable people are people who are not powerful. And that's even me. I'm a vulnerable person, right? If I don't have the power to go against Bank of America when they screw me over, I'm vulnerable. So all of us are vulnerable to companies that pollute our water because they can. They got a big product and they have access to resources. Look at Trump. We're vulnerable to Trump and what he's going to do. Women are vulnerable because we just saw that when Trump got in, he took away something fundamental for us. He did that. And so we're all vulnerable to someone. And when I say vulnerability, I don't just mean the downtrodden. I just mean those who are able to be taken advantage of and exploited because they can't fight back. When you don't know everyone doesn't have a lawyer on speed dial. And so, say if you need a contractor, you have something going on in your home, and you contract with someone, and they leave you hanging. Well, who are you going to call? The attorney general. That's who you can call because right now you're vulnerable, and I want to make sure that I help protect you.
Well, again, I think everyone should want that, right? I mean, we
Yes.
we want someone in the for us. So I think thank you so much. I think that's awesome. Well, I know you have a lot of campaigning to do because you cannot rest. You got to get back out there. But before we wrap up, is there anything else that you just want to say that I did not ask you about? And I want to tell you, I appreciate your time truly. And I will share in the show notes for this podcast, your website, so people can donate because I'm behind you 100%. Is there anything that you'd want to just say in closing that we just didn't talk about?
Yes. So I want to say this because everyone's talking about the general election and how afraid we are about the general election. And I'll say this, if we band together the way we need to, own our own narrative and be offensive instead of defensive to the craziness that they have, we will win. And we don't have to constantly be in fear of the unknown. I am so tired of being afraid. I don't want to be that way. I don't want to live like this. And I am just encouraging all of us to make sure that we propel what we are into the atmosphere. We keep talking about they're going to say, well, they're going to say we're soft on crime. How do they get to own law and order with a president that is found liable for rape, liable for fraud, and has 3 other pending criminal trials? I don't know how they get to own law and order. Blue lives did not matter on January 6th, where they beat, pepper spray, and people lost their lives. And so, sorry, you're not the Center for Morality Republican Party. And I don't know if you have Republicans listening to this, and I'm sorry if I'm saying Republicans, but that is what that one man represents. And they can't own that law and order. We have to own our own narrative to make sure we correct the moments that we're in. And I do believe reasonable minds and reasonable people will persevere in November. So I just wanted to put that out there because I keep running into people that see these big flags. F Joe Biden. Oh, that's just for fear and intimidation. They buy that big flag for that reason because they don't have anything else. So let's not fall prey to that and let's go out and win this thing.
Amen again. I say amen. And as far as I will say one thing about and as in my head, I'm just sick of us being divided too. And I think we all can do a little bit
That's
better on
true.
that. And I don't like to just say, oh, it's this side or that side because
You're right.
because of fear. I think fear is one of the most toxic, disgusting emotions or ways to live if we live in fear. It makes us think and do things we wouldn't otherwise, because we're not thinking rationally. And I think we have to get rid of the fear. And like you said, we can band together, but I think we need to work together too. And I think that's one of the things I can't stand when I see those F Joe Biden signs or let's go
Right.
Brandon or whatever, because like, what is that? Like, but I want to say to your point, East, if there's Republicans listening, it's okay. I have some friends and family who vote
Yeah,
differently than me. And guess what? I like to believe that we come together. We should stop and think we come together on the main values. Do you have people you love in your life? Yes, you do. Do you have a purpose? Do you have a job? Do you contribute something to community? Do you want the environment to be good? Do you want things to be better? I think for most of us that we do. And I think we need
that
to
is true.
cut out the crap and come together on the good stuff.
I agree, and that is true. And for any of your listeners, this is not a Republican versus Democrat. It's an obvious conversation with, our presidential people. But I have met Republicans that are like, I don't like that. I'm not about that. And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And there's Democrats that are not about everything with the Democratic Party either. I honestly think most of us are in the middle. So I definitely would love to galvanize that energy.
Yes, yes. Unfortunately, we're hearing the loud mouths of that are like, and that's where we're like, oh, people, no, no, no. Most people are more common sense than that. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. Yeah. And I did have on, I mean, like I am a Democrat. I vote for mostly Democrat. A couple weeks back, I had State Senator Rosemary Brown on, and I appreciate that she talked about crossing, working across the aisle. And I think we need more of that. And but
Mhm.
I will say before we wrap up too that I want to remind everyone you've got to vote. You've got to get out there and vote. It's the only way we can get things done. Get out there for the primary and make sure you get out there. And that's how your voice is heard. Otherwise, you can't complain if you didn't contribute. You really do have
That's
to
right.
vote, and especially in local elections, right? When you say Kira, local are so important.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, they're directly connected to what your needs are, and they understand. I mean, let me tell you, school board races now have become the major election moment. We're talking about educating our future leaders. These cannot be ignored anymore. We need to get out there and go for school board any chance we get. That is a serious, serious election. So I do hope people start to get more civically engaged and not disengaged, because that is one way we're going to keep our freedoms and our common sense.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So get out there. I think it's at April 25th is the
April
primary.
23rd. No, don't wait until
23rd.
25th.
Okay, I will make sure that's corrected in the show notes. I should have looked beforehand. Do not wait till the 25th. Get there the 22nd, camp out. It's on April 23rd, so you can cast your vote, the primary. And I hope you will cast it for Keir Bradford-Grey. Again, I
Thank
want to
you.
thank you, Keir, so much for sharing some of your time with us today. And I will be happy to give you my vote, and I hope others listening will as well. And I mean, I want to see women should be in every office, quite frankly. The fact that we still
Absolutely.
have first out there is unbelievable in this
Yes.
country.
Yes, I agree. So thank you. Thank you for all you do. And thank you for giving us a platform. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, I want to thank my listeners as always. I hope you took something away from this. And again, please, if you're not a Democrat or whatever, even I just hope you learned something. Just listen. I mean, it's so important that we listen to one another. At least we can learn from everyone we meet a little something. Even if you run out there and you go out and you meet somebody and you go, okay, I learned I don't want to do that. It's okay. But I hope you took some inspiration away. And every week I say I'm about promoting women. And I think Kira is about that too. And I'd love to see her get in office. So let's help her do that. I will put something in the show notes. I'll put a link to Kira's website page, Pennsylvania State Attorney General on the ballot. Get out there, April 23rd. And I will put that information in the show notes as well so that you see it. And again, I just want to thank all my listeners. And I want to say that, if you can help out, look in my show notes for my Buy Me a Cup of Coffee page. That helps to support this podcast so I can keep having these important conversations. But even if you don't have $5, $10, you know what you can do? Share this podcast. Tell a friend, tell a foe, tell anyone you know, because us little guys and gals need your help and we need your support. So, as I always say, I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart and the bottom of my wine glass.